Fazia tempo que a gente estava esperando esse momento, né, não, Fábio?
Tá falando disso há bastante tempo.
Bastante tempo. Nada melhor que nesse lugar incrível. A gente está aqui no estúdio do nosso camarada, amigo, 213 Estúdio, Alessandro Jordão, Museu de Neons. Pra quem não conhece o Jordão, é um cara incrível.
Hoje nosso amigo do skate já,
do
né?
Skate, desde 95 eu conheço o Jordão, mano.
Conheço ele antes, hein? Acho que 92, 93, São Caetano.
Algumas vezes a gente não anda de skate, mas continua skatista. Como é a frase que você...
Skate mesmo quando a gente não está andando.
A gente tem um parceiro novo, Davidson.
Salve, galera!
É o primeiro programa. Se a gente imaginasse como seria, a gente não ia estar aqui hoje.
Eu acho que não.
Hoje com a gente, uma lenda, ícone, pai de família, ativista, tudo. Kenny Anderson. Kenny Anderson.
I understood that. That's what I understood.
Yeah, little introduction. Kenny Anderson. Amazing guy.
Right.
Stylish. Legend. Icon. Conscious environment. Vegan. Musician. Stylish. Kenny Anderson. Who watching Planet Earth in the back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Still the good
Way
era.
back in the days.
Back in the days, Kenny Anderson.
Thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for coming, man.
Thank you guys,
Thank
yeah.
you for being here.
For real.
Haven't seen you forever.
Oh yeah.
Glad to see you again. Yeah.
So you guys skated together back in the days? Something like that?
Just
when it was
like the
living in
contest
California?
circuit stuff. Yeah, and I'd see you around.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories, but maybe he don't remind.
No, I remember.
Yeah, I remind one time in Tampa with the City Star guys and dinner. I think Justin from Venture, you know the team?
Yeah.
We all on the table, Paul.
Team manager from for Venture?
Yeah, Venture, Justin.
They
He's
call him
always
ears.
around.
They call him ears. Yeah, Justin.
And Heath Brinkley with
Yeah.
me. Talk with Kenny. He say good things about you in the contest. I say, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, he don't remind, but for me it's like,
That's
oh.
how I remember. 'Cause
Yeah.
You were ripping. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, how are your holidays in Brazil?
Good.
Because, you know, all these Converse tools seems like for me a vacation. Nice hotels, first class.
I mean, yeah, they're nice.
Is that really like that, or it's?
This trip has been pretty nice.
I saw your Instagram, like the view in Salvador.
Yeah.
The hotel
We
is
had this balcony
amazing.
with this nice view of Salvador.
Really? But are you guys filming for something specific? Or is just a
I
tour
don't think
to
so, yeah. I think it's more about the tour video.
Right.
Maybe if people get stuff, they can save it for projects they're working on, but I don't know, yeah. Yeah.
It's not your first time. Maybe it's your third time in Brazil?
This is my fourth time here, yeah.
You did something so cool, just go to Amazonas, up the river. That's right, up the river.
That was my first trip to Brazil.
Really?
Scary.
The first time you went to the Amazon?
Yeah, so I never came to the city. I didn't come back until like, I don't know, 7 more years.
Really?
So all I knew of Brazil was the Amazonas. We did a skateboarder magazine trip, and it was me,
Adelmo.
Yeah, I remember that one.
me, Adelmo, Joey Pepper, John Merring, photographer.
Okay.
Jake Johnson, Raymond Molinar, Jack Sabick. Yeah, we did from Belém to Manaus, I believe. And then I had to fly from the Amazon to a chocolate trip, which was Stuttgart, Germany. So I'm in like the Amazon River, floating up, sleeping on hammocks and like experiencing the Amazon like culture. And then to Stuttgart, Germany, like one of the wealthiest cities in the world, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember walking around, I felt like came straight out of the jungle. Like it was winter there, I had a t-shirt on, I didn't feel the cold. So I was walking around just like,
So warm.
It took you some time to
I was
realize.
warm, yeah, like the culture shock part. I was walking around, I remember looking in this window and seeing the price of this purse that could have like
Feed a whole
built
village.
a school and fed a village and built like, and I'm just kind of, it took me, I was really shocked. Yeah, I mean, of course trips do that, but that was the one, it literally was like, it starts making you think about the necessities of life in general, or like what you're doing when you go back home, or how you're living, how other people are living. And yeah, I remember I got really, really sick because of that. It was because I think my mind and body just
Spiritual thing.
yeah, but being out in the cold with a t-shirt on,
With a
because
t-shirt.
everyone's with a winter coat, but then also my mind was going somewhere else too. So
Do you think that as a skateboarder, you're you learn how to experience life in a different manner? Do you think that skateboarding affects the way you choose where you're going, what you're doing?
Oh, for sure, because of spots. We went to the Amazon jungle because we wanted to go, but then we looked on YouTube. People made calls, a demo made calls, and we found spots in Manaus. So like we went to basically the Amazon jungle to experience that, but then we knew what spots we were going to try to skate while we're there. And then we'd of course just kind of search around for ourselves.
Right.
Which that goes for every city. You know, we go to certain areas because of one spot and you shouldn't be there. So we see the world in a way different way.
Since that was your first experience in Brazil, you had any notion of what you were going to see here?
I had no idea. I mean, of course, I done some research on the Amazon.
Okay.
But that's like saying your geography class in high school taught you about the world.
Rainforest.
Once I showed up and you feel it, you feel all the energy and you really try to comprehend where you're at, which you kind of never do. You just kind of keep living in the present and taking it in.
Right.
That's when it was like, who cares what I try to learn, what I read. It's like, I'm just going to live in the present and just keep like experiencing in increments, you know. Right. Every step forward is just like, I've
never been there.
Blown away.
It's hard to go.
A lot of people that's what's crazy part. Also, all my Brazilian friends were like, you went to the Amazon.
Yeah.
How was it? I'm like, wait, you never went?
You know, all times the guys just talk about Amazon. In my mind, just the thing I always see in the videos is just the frog thing, the yellow frog. You try that?
We did ayahuasca. We did a whole an ayahuasca ceremony. Yeah, but we didn't do the whole ceremony because we did ayahuasca. We did the whole ceremony, but we were supposed to stay with the tribe
for a little while, for maybe a day or two.
You could do a day, but we're like trying to be. So it's kind of funny. We wanted to swim with pink dolphins.
Really?
And the next day we wanted to swim with pink dolphins. So as we did ayahuasca, we were like, well, we were doing it. Well, should we stay here or should we get on the boat and ride 3 hours so we wake up to pink dolphins? So instead of staying with the tribe and being safe, we decided to go get on the boat after we did ayahuasca and do an ayahuasca trip for a 3-hour ride.
That's crazy.
So we can swim with pink dolphins in the morning.
Everything went.
And that was a decision where we were kind of like all happy.
Everything went well.
I don't want to talk too much about that because it's like, well, it was all of us that I said.
Yeah.
And Josh Stewart was filming. Clint Peterson too. Clint Peterson.
Okay.
He's very important. I'm gonna keep this short, but everyone took ayahuasca, and some people they threw up right away.
Yeah, I know.
And that's why I don't want to say too much because we didn't film at the time. We filmed a little bit, but not after. Because it's people's personal experiences.
Right. Yeah.
But they were throwing up, and then this one guy from Spain who didn't skate, he just was there before on the boat, and he came with us. Him and I were the only ones who actually, I started hallucinating, and he was too. Everyone else in the trip threw up kind of quickly, and then once you throw it up, I guess
back to normal. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess you get into this weird state of just kind of like tripping a little bit. So my experience, I did, and I was at the edge of the boat. I remember going, well, we were walking, and I got to the boat, and Adelmo was with me, and that's when his dreads were down to his ankles, and he sat across from me, and I was sitting here, and they gave us a bowl of pasta, long noodles, and then the lights started doing trails. So I'm looking at these lines, and I'm looking at Adelmo's hair, which are lines, and I'm looking at these noodles that are lines, and I'm just going this is it, this is what it's okay. And the shaman was saying, Adelmo was translating, of course, but the shaman was saying, don't turn it negative. Whatever you do, don't turn this experience negative, or it'll become negative. I took that to heart. I'm like, oh, this is it. It's happening. So I just put everything down and went up to the top, and I stood at the edge of the boat. And it was light rain like Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
I was out there just don't turn negative, don't turn. Anyway, so I started doing my thing, which, I don't want to talk about, but and it took 5 hours for me to, no, not 5 hours. It took 3 hours for me to throw up.
And maybe go back to normal? Is that?
Yeah, but normal was me still seeing trails and hearing howler monkeys in the jungle. So like normal to me was like, where am I still? And then we're parked next to the jungle and we're sleeping on hammocks outside.
Do you feel better afterwards?
I did, but in a weird way, because I had to question myself, like what happened. Because without telling you about what I saw, it's hard to like dissect that. But I did go through it, and I'll tell you this: like at one point when I threw up, everyone was cheering. Clint stood by me the whole time, and I remember looking over the banister and thinking I should jump in the river, like so I can wake up. Because at that point I was just kind of like seeing trails and the banister was waving.
Felt like you were dreaming.
And I'm just dreaming, like tripping, like I guess normal people do.
Right.
Not normal people, people who
experience
take things like that do that to you. So I'm sitting there going, man, I just want to wake up and I want to get out of this now. So
have you seen that movie Waking Life?
No.
Something like the floating.
You should watch it. You should watch it.
I will. I'm sure I can relate to that. But I wanted to jump into, of course, but like, there's piranha and whatever else in there.
You shouldn't go into the
I
water.
know, but I wasn't, and I started leaning over and I was going to climb over, but Clint grabbed the back of my shirt and pulled me back. But I was already like over my stomach leaning over. I remember thanking Clint Peterson every time I saw him for like a year probably. Till finally we were both like, he's like, come on. Stop.
It's okay.
He didn't say that, but like I felt like that. But because I literally, for me, it was like you saved my life. Because he made sure I was in my hammock sleeping before he went to bed while everyone else was already sleeping. He stayed up with me because I was still like gone.
Wow.
And then the next day we swam with pink dolphins.
Was it better?
When I tell that story, sometimes they're like, were they really pink? Did you really swim with dolphins? Because they think I'm still tripping. But no, I guess one part of the Amazon is they're pink dolphins.
I was so scared about taking ayahuasca.
Yeah, trying to use it to treat PTSD.
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot about it, and they talked about it, how the shaman use it and the tribes. Yeah. Especially with going through the jungle and seeing, like, we were doing a tour of the jungle, and this guy was saying, this plant will kill you, this plant will heal you. And they're right next to each other, and they look alike. And you're like, whoa, because it's so medicinal. The plants are so medicinal in there, and the fruit and the superfoods and all that, and we're learning about all that. And learning about how the shaman take it and then get those visions to help their tribe as a medicine man,
Right.
I see the guy from New York, the skate Yaja Popson.
Yaja.
Yeah. He was in Amazonas for 2 years just to healing the knee.
Yeah.
To heal his knees?
Yeah, because the mother from Yaja is a Brazilian.
Okay.
She's really into the religion and the ayahuasca thing.
Yeah.
He's good now. He told us some interview.
He's got back into
skating. I saw the video. He's
skating really good.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Well, he went from like little Yaje too to like he grew up a lot.
Let's talk about skateboarding. About like, for me, skateboarding is not about what you do, but how you do what you do, like you do. Like, tell me about the years in chocolate, making part of the most important skateboard brand, I think, forever.
Like how was it to be a part of it?
You can say that. You can talk about the transition from Planet Earth to
that's
chocolate.
really important what you asked.
He started skating from Planet Earth,
I was
You are from Vegas, no?
from Las Vegas,
and Lottie's from Vegas.
Brian Lottie's from Vegas.
No?
Yeah, he rode for 8th Street, and I remember him coming back to Vegas saying, Chris Miller is going to start this company called Planet Earth, which Chris Miller was like, he's still my all-time favorite as a skateboarder then, and then still to this day, he's so inspiring. The way he lives his life.
Right now.
Yeah. Now, when I turned 14, it was, or around 14, that Lottie said that, and then he came back after that, and asked me if I wanted to ride for him. But yeah, so then I rode for Planet Earth from 14 to,
all life.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know. But I remember when.
They never asked you to ride for rhythm at any time?
No, because Earth and Rhythm were separate, and I was more Earth.
Okay.
And Felix wanted to start Rhythm, and then there might have been talks, but it was more about like Felix wanted to have this crew of people, but I'd skate with. It's like Girl in the Chocolate back then.
Right.
Sometimes when Lottie going for blind, it's like blind girl and playing B is like
maybe blinded plan B
Yeah,
first.
like the brands in the time, you know, like the hot brands in the time. You start thinking, oh man, I want to
Maybe I
skate
should
for.
go over there. Or...
Like,
Did I?
Yeah. Well, no.
Chris Miller meant so much to me. Like I didn't even think about that. I was just like, I'm just skating.
Chris
And Planet
Miller,
Earth, I love Planet
it's
Earth.
amazing.
I love everything about it. I didn't even think.
Were you on Planet Earth at the time they released the Now and Later video?
That was my first box.
Really?
Was the Now and Later video.
Wow.
So I was getting flowed stuff, but I wasn't. Was my first box. I had a box, but that came later. So I was getting flowed stuff from Planet Earth.
Okay, at the time, what was the team? Maybe Trent Gaines?
Trent Gaines, Javante.
Yeah,
And,
crazy video.
Yeah,
Brian Lottie,
that Now and Later part is just.
crazy.
I remember even us, because we'd skate with him, and he was so progressive at the time. That was the first guy I saw doing nollie.
Really?
Switchbacks 180. Switch
the
60
line
flip.
Brian Lottie doing in the video is amazing.
That's
You know, the
crazy.
big spins.
No, but all of us who know him and watch the video part, you're like, you can see he just took it to a new level, and it was rad for the world to watch. But I didn't know how big he was until later on Earth, when everyone was like, you know Lottie, you know Brian Lottie, how is he? Like, he's my favorite skater. I'm like, whoa. He's like Miller to me. Like, he's still so inspirational to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about this time? Every time we watching the video, we try translate the voice for Brian Lottie. What the fuck is
Oh,
saying?
when he's talking?
Yeah, because it's
I forgot.
no
he's saying
Portuguese
I got a
for
school
us. And the other thing is where you go find these cargo pants to try copying him, you know?
Was
Yeah, no,
it
the-
already the ghetto wear?
That might have been pre-Ghetto Wear, because Ghetto Wear made those off of like
You
army
can imagine
pants.
for Brazilian guys
For sure,
in
yeah.
Brazil.
No, that's us too.
Oh man.
Us too, yeah.
You think you got some style cues from Brian Lottie, or maybe your brother, something like that?
I think they both had a lot of influence, because my brother just wanted to be like him either way, like
Right.
whatever he was doing, like he was breakdancing, so I was
Right.
breakdancing.
There's
and then it went
this
to
too.
I was skateboarding, and then so of course you want to look up to your brother, and he was so good, Still, you can't skate. He can still do 6-foot stellfishers on
Really?
ramps and stuff. Yeah, he's inverts on mini ramps somehow. But I think, but there's a scene in Vegas, like I said, the guys I mentioned before, and Lottie had so much influence that I don't remember being like, I want to try to skate like him. No, I don't remember saying like I want to copy his style.
Yeah,
It was more like
I tried.
I like the way he looks.
Maybe it's something about the feeling that you get from watching him skating.
I just
right?
love the way he looked on a board and the way he would kind of like try to figure things out. But I like my brother's like raw, just like,
Go for it.
yeah. You just skate the way you skate naturally, like as you're doing, but like, of course, trick selection. The stuff that would come out of Lottie's mouth sometimes about what he would like.
Yeah,
I
amazing
know,
trick
and my
selections.
other friend Dave, he's a little more harsh on like, nah,
Everything,
that's not,
the graphics, everything.
Yeah, I look back and like a lot of my tricks, he did those tricks. So and Miller too. Miller straight like Miller,
sugarcane.
Gons, Lottie, Randy Colvin,
Randy
because from
Colvin.
local stuff.
For me, Miller is God.
Miller as an artist too. It's
Yeah.
like just like
he
Lottie.
did all graphics.
He did all his graphics. He did the
Does
Planet Earth
everything.
graphics. So that's what Planet Earth meant to me. So that's how you know like a little more like why Miller, what Lottie set up for me, and I have a lot of loyalty towards that. So when we first talked, it didn't happen, and like I said, I was gonna go with Planet Earth till they went out of business or they kicked me off. And then a year later, Miller talked to me and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna stop making boards. We're gonna do the Planet Earth clothing."
Yeah, I
more."
remember that change.
Yeah, and I remember going like, because you hear all these stories about Girl and Chocolate, you don't get offered twice. You don't
Yeah.
get they're so elite, and I didn't feel like I belonged. I got so much anxiety when they talked to me, and it was just more like I just don't feel like I belong there type thing.
You're the first guy in Converse in '97. You
Shani was the first
Shani
one.
Jenkins and
my roommate.
Felix,
We're the us three.
you're third guy.
And then Supa, Jerry Fowler. Then it turned into like Joel Meinholz, Will Harmon, Ricky Ola.
Okay.
Like
okay.
a bigger. Stefan Laurence was.
Yeah, Stefan.
France guy.
Yeah. For me, I was wearing Chucks. And then some companies offered to flow me shoes and give me shoes, and I said no, because I'd rather go buy Chucks, because that's what in Vegas, that's what I wore.
I read is your first shoes, you know?
Yeah, that's what I wore. So
Skating?
For me, that was,
for me, it's my first
for me, it was
shoes,
keeping
too.
it real. It was,
I
for
have
me,
a
it was
pair.
like,
Wow, that's crazy.
I couldn't imagine getting on a skateboard brand shoe company back then, because it wasn't about support. I just thought like, no, this is what I skate in. So for me, like
go-
selling out or something would go to a different company. Like,
So
and
let
then,
me keep.
so I just kept
using-
buying Chucks, and then Shanny ended up getting on the team, and Shanny was like, hey, my roommate, because I lived with him, he told my roommate that's all he wears. So for me, I was like, oh, I get free Chucks now. I don't have to go and buy Chucks.
That was it for you at the time.
That was everything. That was a dream to ride for Converse. Like my dreams back then were Converse and Levi's, because that's, you know, I didn't really think much about like, and a lot of brands weren't around, you know. And then
But it's a
Elwood
hard
came
time
around.
back in the days because nobody using the Chucks. In the 80s, like Hosai, the guys use a
Yeah,
two-collar
that
Chucks.
90s, not many, but my friends and I, it wasn't just me, like our little crew, maybe three of
Like
us,
the fat shoes.
we just liked Chuck. Yeah, we just wore Chucks. I don't know, it's like, and I got used to it. When I put on, I remember skating in
They
Soul
make
Tech
like the
gave me some
fat
shoes.
too, Converse back in the
No,
days.
that's the thing though. So I got on for Chucks, then ended up making
gotta
these
be the
shoes
most.
that were like these big loaves of bread. I went on a trip I remember Colombia, and I was wearing All-Stars. And I came back, I remember getting in trouble, like, you need to wear the skate shoes. Chuck wouldn't have worked back then, you know? So there's,
But now, sounds
now,
so good.
that's why that I'm,
Chucks.
the fact that I can have my own Chuck, design my own Chuck, you know?
Choose everything.
That's like a dream for me, like a kid, more than having my own shoe, you know? It was like making a new silhouette, which was cool, I'm grateful, but like, but it was more about, like when I had that, I think I was the most excited, because that's why I wanted to ride for Converse to begin with.
What's the difference back in the Converse in the 90s? You think it's more skating right now? Like the people working in Converse is more skater, like skaters in the marketing.
Yeah, the beginning was a bunch of people in the office who wanted to dive into skateboarding and hired someone
As consultant to.
didn't know about skateboarding. No, one guy did, consultant, that's how Shanny got on this, but the guy working at the office had no clue.
Okay.
So he just listened. So they'd fly us three in for meetings and just pick our brains. And then, but internally, there was no skate. To make it simple, there was no a skate team working internally. Later on, they ended up hiring this guy, Roger Bagley, 9 Club.
Yeah.
He shifted it a lot because he was team manager and the filmer. So that kind of shifted right around that time. But then as they're working, the whole Converse in general had to make a shift. So it ended. Converse in general like kind of went restructured, like a certain form of bankruptcy.
And then they were bought by Nike. That's what
And then
happened.
turned around company, bought by Nike, and then started up again. And even when I got on, they were still putting skateboarders there. But now the team, and they just kept kind of figuring it out. And the team we have now in the last couple of years is why the team we have that
it's
you're talking
amazing.
about. And we all put input on what the team, we all help build what it is now. The team, even the Brazilian team, like the way Guy chooses or how they got on in general. I think they got on before, but like the way Guy is making these films with them and pushing the Brazilian team like
I saw the New York one. It's Felipe is crazy.
Yeah. You know what? I want to
Cal,
know
I
these
feel
things. For me, the first time I saw Felipe, I just, wow, this kid is so unique. The tattoos, the style, the skate is so creative.
I don't know my first impression, but I just remember watching him skate and seeing the way his style is, and then seeing the way he looked at
The
things.
flow.
Yeah, the flow, and then he did like a different trick, a unique trick, but then you also see him like in a distance do this like nollie heel flip,
Yeah, exactly.
chill, and you're like, oh,
Perfect. So
He
Wait,
knows
hold on.
how to do those.
hold
shoes.
on,
So
he knows
perfect.
he knows how to do everything.
Exactly.
And then the creative part of him, who he is, it just exudes out of him. So yeah, he's gonna look at the ledge differently. And that's, I think, skateboarding in general. Skateboarding is art. It's not a sport, one bit. It's a form. It's a form of self-expression. So that's why you see those different styles and in every way, you know.
Yeah.
And and I'm not saying like the other type isn't, because I'll watch 20 people do a switch heel and they're all unique in their own way. So it's not that. It's
like
just
painting.
yeah, exactly. So it's just, I don't know. It's like walking through a gallery, I guess. Like certain things will move you more than the other, and you don't know why. You don't need to ask why. Just
Do you think
take
something's gonna change because of the Olympics?
There's a lot going on there. Yeah, you got to look at it like this: to take an approach of, without bashing anything or like being negative. It's more like not the Olympics, but things of that nature, like bigger things that people can point the finger at, have been around since the 80s. Like the Swatch Impactor was a Swatch watch.
Right.
You know, Swatch Impactor, and those held the biggest content. That's how I met Miller. That's how I saw Joe Johnson. That's inspired me more than anything. It's more about if the companies start shifting their budget to people-only Olympics, as opposed to the skateboard culture and the art form of it.
The core skaters.
And the community of skateboarding and skateboarders, and helping that more than putting their whole budget into one person that's going to be into the Olympics.
They'll need to find some kind of balance.
But even that, though, that's just financially. Like the companies now that are coming out, the board companies and all that, those are all out of love right now. And that's how it was in the 90s. So when they come out, it's not about this big check. So what I just said, like there's big budget, like take away the budget and it's a form of self-expression. Mm-hmm. If that company owner can get by, and they're just supporting the community, which is happening right now, which I see, that's more important. And that'll never die. Yeah, if you put your value on the dollar and you need to make X amount, it's more about your value of life and how you want to live, you know? So you don't need to make a lot. You don't need to be a part of the bigger system to help the culture. So as long as that stays around, that'll overpower anything that comes. That'll overpower the Olympics.
Right.
By tenfold.
The culture is bigger than...
It's way stronger than Olympics.
I think it's still skateboarding. For some people, it's going to be the Olympics. For other people, it's still like the true skateboarding.
Well, that's a street league. You know?
I asked you because I had a kind of, maybe wasn't a big shock, but it was kind of shocking to watch the first street league for me as a skateboarder. So I was like, I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. I love everything now.
I realized that it's just skateboarding.
I'd have to like dig in to comment on that kind of stuff. I don't really like, I care, but like it doesn't really if you just do what you do, the skateboarder, and like I don't look at things in a negative way. I have an opinion, but like I'm just more like, well, here what's a better option? What's a more positive option to look at skateboarding instead of complaining about the street league? I don't even care enough to, you know. And those are my boys. So like if they can go and make money, and Deerdick made that happen, and he makes more money for the skaters to survive.
It's all good.
Like, and that's my point though. Does that matter? No. Does that help? Yeah, cool. It's your value on a dollar. Like, how do you want to, like, do you want a lot of money? Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, or do you I don't know.
Do your thing.
Or can you? Like, I remember Malta, we were filming for Pretty Sweet, and he's like, I'm going to fly out. He's like, I don't know if I should go. I'm like, dude, go fly out for 2 days, win a couple $100,000, and come back and skate street with us and film for the video. That's exactly what he did. I think he won like $100,000 or something. I was like, all right, Sean, let's
cool. That's great.
Kenny, let's talk about skate media right now, because we see a lot of great skaters come from nowhere in social media.
Yeah.
And what do you think about it? It's kind of crazy, you know?
It is. It's change, man. The only thing constant is change. So if you want to fight it, you can fight it, or if you want to, there's an Alan Watts quote where the only way to, this is chop it up a little bit, but the only way to deal with change is to plunge right in and go along with the dance.
Right.
You know? So with this time, it's just like complaining about 4-1 when it came out.
Yeah.
When there wasn't that before, and we're from the same time frame, I believe. Maybe before you a little bit, but you're around before that. You didn't see anything until a video came out once a year. And then when they start coming out more, that's like what it was now in the 90s, I guess. It's just more now. So it's more, more skateboarding, cool. And I look at it like, it's saturated. There's so much. I'm a still skate nerd. I want to see stuff, but there's too much. You can't. It's physically impossible to watch everything out. So you have to be referred to, or.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that back to Olympics or any company or anything like that, or company that's hard to get on, or kids that are struggling to be sponsored and all that, like if they're making a name for themselves by themselves, and taking it upon themselves to do it, and that's working, like, how are you gonna hate on that? In a way of going like, man, you stood out amongst millions and millions and millions of videos that come out every day, and somehow you stood out. I like that, in that it sucks that maybe for the people you can't see it all, you know, like yet, but like as far as people supporting themselves and all that, I love it. And that's as core as you get, like I said before, like that can lead to more success, however, whatever your success is as an individual, but people don't need the Olympics for that. Like that's not skateboarding. That's just a contest.
It's just a little
that
bit.
can go to.
It's a tool too.
And if any, who knows? If anything, I don't know. There's more money.
Let's wait to 2020.
But that's the thing, though. It's not about. It's like people. The money comes up all the time because I mean, is it the fame? Is it what is it? Skateboarding was never about that anyway. It was a punk rock movement. For me, it was a fuck everything.
Let me do
I
this.
I like those guys I'm looking at that are punk rock.
They are
And
special.
In '86 when I started, that's what it was. It's like for me, it was everything but being known, being sponsored, being like making money, being cool. It was like, no, that's the only way I can speak. Like that's the only way I can like
express myself
because I can barely speak as a kid, you know? I'm just gonna do my own thing. And then if that picks him up and if that ends up helping him being sponsored and he wants to, cool. If you don't want to, cool too.
Back in the day, Chocolate's like the dream team, right? Girl and Chocolate.
Girl and Chocolate.
What do you think, what happens with Girl and Chocolate now?
When they asked me, I was like, I don't belong, what? Because they were that to me, and I didn't see myself like that. So I was like, I don't belong. So fast forward, like I was saying, a year later, I went to Vancouver Slam City Jam, and Rick Howard was, he's like, what's your deal? What's your deal? Please offer me again. But I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like I acted like I didn't hope what he was saying. He's like, what's your deal, Planet Earth? I'm like, well, I just found out they're not making
boards anymore.
Just clothing, yeah.
And then Scott Johnson walked up, or Scott was there, so he's like, what? So, like, do you think you can, I forgot his words, like, so there's a possibility you're writing? I'm like, I don't know, can I still? You know, and then let's talk when we get home, one of those things.
This is amazing.
And then I got home and I was like, we worked it out, got on Chocolate. So that's how I got on that. And I still feel like I don't belong, but I'm here. I'm there, I'm still doing it here. I'm still going. It is still the same. It's just a lot of changes happen. Again, like people's perspectives and other people's lives move on. So in that essence, it's not the same because it's technically not the same. The writers have left.
Yeah.
Again, going back into change and how that's changing, you got to adapt as well, you know, especially them. It's all about just skating, keeping it Girl and Chocolate, you know.
You were so engaged about the veganism.
Yeah.
So animal rights, conscious environment. For me, it's like inspiration because I'm really into the organic and I'm vegetarian. I used to be vegan. I still between both.
Mine was a slow process, actually. I just remember being really into the environment for reasons of like, I don't know, certain things of you first think about, you know, plastic littering, and I guess my whole life of being kind of minimal on things, but like, if I care about the environment, like I think I do,
I need to do something about it.
I'm going to start implementing that in my life. And it was just like, oh, let me start thinking about plastic. Let me start thinking of this and this. And I remember, but my friend had he was starting an old Mercedes business, and he was a good friend of mine from Vegas, and I've always liked the aesthetics of old Mercedes. So, but I was just reading about biofuel and how Mercedes are the best to convert to run on veg oil.
Okay,
and,
so you were already researching about it.
Yeah, like about environmental stuff, like what can I do? And buy consciously, be a little more conscious on what affects our environment and what doesn't, you know? Anyway, I learned about that, and then I'm like, oh, well, gosh, I like this. I'm gonna buy this Mercedes. And then I started looking into it and realized like, man, I can do this. So I went on all these forums. I'm OCD with research. I'm obsessive with research. So I just researched till 4 a.m. in the morning every night, till reading forums, made calls to people. Hey, when you do this, when you do that. Finally figured out my little thing, concoction of what I want to do, made calls, got it, converted it, sold my 2 cars, had an old Mercedes all of a sudden running on visual.
Amazing.
And then I had, and it wasn't like, I'm going to change the world. It was more like, I got obsessed with doing something new, experimenting, and then actually doing it. We're taught so much growing up about ways to live and what's normal and what these are our options. And when I think that's the hardest thing about growing up, right? Is like shaking off all that stuff you learned.
Learning something
and
really new.
Learn, create your own path, type thing. And that was something that was never an option for me, never shown to me, never even talked about. Rudolf Diesel built the diesel engine to run on peanut oil. So for me, it was more about like, oh wait, I can actually do research. And that made me more confident on any decision I can make. Because now I can look into something and be like, no, I can actually do that. I can actually do anything I want. Like I have 3 kids. So I when they're with me, they're vegan because I tell them, hey, daddy, you gotta respect daddy. I will never put a penny to those industries. But when you're not with me, make your own decision. When I grew up and we all grew up, those things weren't taught to us.
Yeah.
So I want to make my kids conscious enough of how the world really works, and then they can make their own decisions. And I think for me, like a friend, if anyone asks me questions about this, which I get a lot now, it's not about vegan. It's not about like, don't eat that, don't do this. It's about where you're going to connect with it on a level of consciousness, I don't know, to me there's a disconnect. Like I said, we're disconnected a lot. And once you shake off all that stuff and you slowly start connecting with yourself, then the residuals of that will be, you'll be more conscious of making your decisions. You'll make a better decision when you go buy your hamburger. And if you know what that is going to cause and you still buy it, I'll high five you and hug you. People don't want to learn. You don't want to be conscious of it. But there's residuals to being oblivious, right? So the more oblivious you are to things and the decisions you make, and it's sitting there causing death of other humans, death for animals, death to our environment, and you're making those decisions unconsciously, guaranteed if you're more conscious of it, you would take a different path.
Yeah.
You would take a different path of, and if you don't, you don't. There's no like make your own decision. But like I just feel, especially with my kids and like seeing how I was raised and all that, like if the truth is told to you at a young age and you're raised that way with truth and how things really work on the level of importance too, of environment, how important that is more than anything, like the curriculum in school should be a 5-minute meditation.
Right.
Even if they don't get it, it'll be part. They don't get half the stuff, but it implements.
Maybe
puts
later
it in your
they'll
mind.
get it.
It will. Your mind will. Your mind will. And later on, it won't be so weird. It won't be so weird because it started happening in general, like how oxygen can open up your cells and how breathing can create that. How the power you have.
Right.
There's a disconnect with that, which causes like fear and hatred towards, in my eyes, and then connection leads to love. So it's the more you connect with yourself, the more you connect with everything else. And I think that's, for me, that's what happened. So the slow process was environment. I had like my ankle, the tendons were shredded, like there were multiple tears. And I was going in and I went to see doctors and the doctor said I needed reconstructive surgery or stop skating. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna stop skating. So then I went and saw a natural doctor and he was like, I've seen worse than this, Kenny. He's like, I can see why they said that to you, but we can do this naturally. I think we can. I'm like, boom, let's do it. Whatever we need to do. I was already vegan, consciously, like thinking about like I said, how stress affects us and all that. But then I really dug in obsessively again to breathing and water and like take away a vegan diet. Just the stress levels, cortisol, what that does to us, because we heal on a cellular level. So I started studying cellular structure and all that stuff. And to be like, well, if I'm going to heal right now, I'm finally taking this, finally made this decision, which I should have made in my 20s or whatever, 30s, that when as it kept getting worse, right? I finally made the decision to do it. So I'm like, well, I'm going to really do it in every single way. And that's what I did. So no alcohol, no caffeine, stress levels, meditation, breathing properly, water structure, of course, the diet, even more on the diet. I heal physically, but like mentally too, it was like this, I don't know, the best way to put it is just never felt that clear.
It took you, how long it took for you to feel,
to
feel like
7 months.
Really?
Yeah. Throughout that though, it's progression. So like I started feeling better.
Instead of having
because the diet already felt better.
3 different surgeries and.
Yeah, I did PRP, which is they take my blood out, spin it, clean it, and put my own blood back in. Like I said, I was adamant about, getting proper sleep, my diet, water, breathing,
and
definitely putting all the energy into healing. And then I did. So I can't attribute it to one thing. I just know whatever I did worked. So I'm not saying I have a potion that if you do the same thing, you're gonna heal. I'm just saying that worked for me. I feel better than I've ever felt in my entire life. Wow. And that's a level of cleansing, you know, your mind as well. When I really think about that, I'm like, were thoughts affecting me to where I couldn't heal? Was it PRP? Was it the diet? Was it literally thoughts of stress and cortisol that are affecting my cells and my body that wouldn't allow me to heal properly, you know? Have you heard of Dr. Emoto, Japanese philosopher?
Yeah,
he did
do the
water
search for water.
So like
the music and this thing.
Yeah, and then, I mean, basically he was saying that thought can affect the molecular structure of water. And people debunked it, people try to debunk it and all that, but like, so what he did, he gave love to one and hate to the other. Took microscopic photos, froze it, took microscopic photos. The love was perfect crystals, snowflakes, and the hate was shattered.
Wow.
Shattered. I look at it like if we're 70% water, our bodies running through our bodies, and thoughts can affect the molecular structure of water and our cells. Would you want shattered water going through you or perfect crystals? So it's not like it's not the answer. It's just like, that's the kind of stuff I was studying and looking into and putting that into my daily life. I just connected to myself so deeply where it was more of like, now I'm just kind of living. I'm just here.
It's amazing. Like you can change your body, you can change your lifestyle.
It's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an impact in life, you know.
I and the people I've talked to are guilty of always trying to find an answer externally. Always trying to find the answer, always trying to find the better, or blame, as opposed to like, the answer's inside. It's internal.
Exactly.
And the more confused you get from that's a disconnect again. You're disconnected with yourself. Like you don't even feel like you have enough power to change. And that's just through experience of people I talked to. And like what happened was I posted that story on Instagram, what I just told you about how I healed myself, a very quick one. And I woke up to 100 DMs from kids that are teenage kids to 40, 50-year-olds, all the way in between asking for help. And I was like, what did I just get into? But all their questions I can wholeheartedly answer. And it was from little kids dealing with like, oh, my knee's hurting, or I'm dealing with, have you dealt with stress? I didn't write anything about stress. And then, hey, my dad's knee's hurting from the thing, or how did you deal with a vegan diet? And they asked me everything my stories told, and I started talking about throughout. Yeah. And that's what made me post stories more about food and things like that, because every time I do, I started getting all these questions. And I was studying plant-based nutrition, so I had all these facts.
Helpful.
Yeah, just helpful things about non-judgmental. This is why I posted the spirulina in coconut water. This is what it does for you, you know? That just inspired me more about wait, what I'm talking about, people are listening, you know? People asking questions about this part of my life that saved my life. That literally saved my life. And talk about a bigger purpose, you know?
Yeah.
So when they started asking me questions, I'm like, no, and then they started deleting. I didn't know that. But one specifically, I'll tell you this, this teenage kid asked about stress. And I was like, yeah, you ever dealt with depression, he said. I'm like, yeah. Here, give me a call. Here's my number. He goes, pfft. He's like a skate kid, so he's like, I'm not gonna call. You're Kenny, I'm not gonna call you. I'm like, hey, skateboarding brought us here together right now.
Let's talk.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
We talked for 3 hours I talked to him about 3 hours about what he was going through. Teenage kid.
Wow.
And directly related to what I went through that caused my depression years later in life. I'm like, the age doesn't matter. It's and we sat there and talked and just gave my experience. I'm not saying I'm here to help, you know, but I'm like,
but I'm telling you.
But that's what happened.
But
that's what actually happened though too. After that, more emails, more calls, more I go out in the street and skate, and there's to average of 2 to 3 a day ask me about something specific that I posted months ago, or that day or something hey, what does that do for you? And I'm like, and to me, I'm about to skate. I'm like, there's nothing more important than to answer this kid's question right now, or this grown man's question right now, because that is a bigger purpose for me at this point.
I wanna bring for you 2 gifts. Oh,
That's a
my
gift?
cooks.
What?
I have this restaurant in São Paulo, Cajito Organic Mexican.
I wish I would have known. I've been looking.
Yeah, it's really good notes in the call, you know the...
Abigail,
Yeah, 5-star there. This is a vegan cooks with
Vegan cookies?
oil, coconut oil, chia, flour, cocoa flour, everything.
Yes,
Organic
thank you.
chocolate. My
This means
wife
everything to
is
me.
a vegan chef. Give it to you these 2 caps, slide and grind. It's a really cool contest. You want to explain?
Yeah, it's the contest that Esteban does. It's like a game of skate with slides and grinds.
That's the one you were talking about?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you, Kenny, for being here with us and, you know, just talking to us about everything skateboarding related, life related, and life in general.
Appreciate it, man.